What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. After Sound here, bringing you Splinterlands content every single day. We also stream right here on this channel every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday morning, so come by and say hello. All right, well, we finished all of the town halls, so all of the 5 biggest takeaways for the year are wrapped up, but in kind of extending the series and as we get into the end of 2022, I wanted to do a couple of videos around the same theme, right? So I'm going to start with the 5 biggest wins for Splinterlands here, and maybe in the future do 5 biggest hiccups, losses, whatever you want to call it, 5 biggest things I'm looking forward to. And if you guys have suggestions on areas that you'd want me to focus on, just let me know in the comments below. But so that people aren't going to accuse me of being totally bearish, I want to start with the 5 biggest wins that Splinterlands had in 2022 and work my way through what I think were some of the most impactful things from this year. So, first and foremost, and again, these are not in any specific order, these are just the top 5 things that I feel like were the most impactful. So, number one, ranked rewards update. Now, ranked rewards update really began in March. Sorry, not in March, in May, with the first iteration of the update, but has extended all the way through to even the card leveling that was passed as a proposal, I believe, just in October, maybe it was November. But it's an ongoing process, and it's been an ongoing process for the team. But the first iteration of it back in May, I think, was one of the biggest things to help combat the bot farming that was happening, especially at the lower levels. Now, again, the game is decentralized. The team has a bot neutral stance, so it doesn't matter who's behind the account. The idea was that the accounts, needed to own the cards or rent owned cards, and playing with ghost cards or starter cards would no longer be viable for what we had last year. At this point in time, we're down to anywhere between 150,000 to 200,000 daily active accounts. I believe we were well over 500 to 600,000 accounts just a year ago at the height of the madness in the bull run. So when that happened, we saw a massive decline in the overall accounts because many people who owned and ran these large bot farms decided that it just wasn't worth their time. They weren't going to invest in a bunch of cards. And at that time, Chaos Legion has slowly bled down all the way throughout the year. So the cards weren't as cheap then as they were at the time of recording this video, which is December 23rd of 2022. So I think that it was a good move. I think that it was impactful, and really it was just the beginning of this movement towards, as some people will say, nerfing rewards, but also, curbing exploitative behavior within the game. So again, I think that this was a win ultimately for the team and for the game. And while some people are going to look at it and say, well, there's less rewards, there's less motivation, there's less incentive for people to come in and play, I think we're going to continue seeing this overall shift. And hopefully the other features of the game, it will be what bring people in. And if we can get this flywheel going, obviously that I think is going to be the major catalyst for bringing in new players, whether we're in a bull or bear market. Okay, number 2, modern format, which followed very closely behind the ranked rewards update. This was in mid-July of 2022, and if you remember, I was so salty. Modern format was my land because I came in in August of 2021, and in September or October is the first time they mentioned that there would be a modern format. And if you didn't have all these old alpha and beta cards, which at the time were going for hundreds of thousands of dollars, I wanted to be able to be competitive and not have to go up against these crazy teams, Valnamore, the sneak teams from the past. It was so frustrating. And I remember being very salty about it at the time, but it came, it was delivered. And I have to say that I kind of even, at this point, 6 months later, it's like I almost take it for granted now. I don't mess around in Wild at all outside of tournaments and brawls, which, again, those are the exceptions, and I know what I'm getting into there. But if I want to play the game regularly, I love going into modern format where I know what the meta is. It's much more limited, and I know what cards to expect. And even though I don't have a max deck, to me, as a newer player, and I know being here for 18 months, I'm not necessarily a new player anymore, but I'm not an OG either, and I'm not pre-SPS OG. I'm not pre-Untamed or Untamed OG. Like for me, this is still a huge win for the team and the company and the game moving forward, especially once Rebellion comes in and Untamed rotates out. Because I think many folks who are in my position, and I would say, there's a good amount of OGs in the game, but I would say that the majority of players who are here now probably came in during sometime within the last 18 months and are therefore, unless you have the capital for it, focused on Chaos Legion and Rift Watchers onward. So I think it's going to be a big moment for this game in roughly 6 to 8 months when Rebellion does come out and we see that shift. Excuse me. But, ultimately they got modern format in. I've been enjoying it, and I think this is going to be a great thing for newer players from here on out. Okay, number 3, governance and DAO. So they did get the DAO set up, and I think that's been a great thing. Obviously, validators themselves are not running yet, and that has probably been, I might save that for like one of the biggest misses of this year. But the fact that they did get the DAO set up and that governance is now available means that we do get a say in where the game is headed, the direction that the game is taking. And some people look at this and say, well, it's still whale dominated. It's still, my voice doesn't really count. And I understand that argument. 100%. I do understand that argument. I mean, even with my stack of SPS, I don't know that I'm making much of a difference. So I can understand where people would be all across the spectrum feeling like their voice isn't heard. But there's two things. I think people are comparing the ideal of a fully decentralized game, which is where we're trying to go, to where we are, versus where Web 2 currently is to where we are. If you look at it on that spectrum, right, and say that we're somewhere in the middle, if you compare the ideal and where we are, we're very far away from it. But when you look at Web 2 and where it is and how far we've come, I think it's a 0 to 1 type of proposition. And excuse me. And for those who are unfamiliar with 0 to 1, that is just it's the idea of like doing something from scratch. And I'm going to totally butcher it right now. Like it's easier to go from 1 to 100 than it is from 0 to 1. And what that means is just the fact that we are now somewhat decentralized. Again, not fully decentralized, but just somewhat decentralized as a game is a huge step up. I mean, you look across the gaming industry and there's not many games that allow you to do this. And so you might look at this and still say, well, my voice doesn't count. Sure, the game's decentralized, but my voice doesn't mean anything. But it does. You have an opinion, and I believe in a model like this, the best ideas can win. So what are the biggest wins from this? I think the team voting down the Rift Watchers for DEC and the node licenses for DEC. And whether or not you agree or disagree with that is besides the point. It just showed that the team presented something that they thought was a good idea, and the community was able to come in, rightly or wrongly, and turn it down, like emphatically. So our voices can be heard, and at the end of the day, it's decentralized where you can go and buy as much SPS as you want to put your vote or have your vote count for more. Again, if we're talking about Web 2 games and where we're coming from rather than where we're trying to go, you can't do that with any of the Web 2 games. Sure, you can go complain on the forums and in their Discord servers or whatever the case is. You can write them long, lengthy emails, but you can't tell Epic Games or Steam or Rockstar. You don't have a say in where things go. You don't have a direct say, I should say, in where things go. And you and the community as a collective doesn't have a direct say in where things potentially go. So to me, this is a big move from 0 to 1. And I look forward to seeing how this aspect grows within the game and the community over the next, we'll call it 5-6 years. 5-6 years plus, really. Okay, number 4. Partnerships. Now, I know people are going to look at this and say, well, partnerships took us away from a lot of the core things that the team is trying to get back to, aka land, aka guilds, aka tournaments, all the stuff that should have been focused on within the game. But if you look at the partnerships that we've gotten, MLSPA with the Genesis League Sports, Double Coconut is a studio that is putting together Tower Defense, and Warner Music, which we still haven't heard much from, aside from the fact that they're still in talks and they're ironing out some things. I still look at that as an absolute win, or a net win, I should say, for the game, the company, and the community. Now, MLSP is the easiest thing for me to point out here because if you're holding and staking SPS, you've literally gotten free money printed out of thin air just for being involved with the Splinterlands project. Now, I've been selling aggressively the MLSPA or the GLX token that I get airdropped, and I've been selling and staking half and half, right, 50-50. So I've already started to realize some of those gains. I know many people went heavy into MLSPA, or sorry, heavy into GLX, and that's fine. Like, I'm not here to talk about the tokenomics or whatever. I'm just saying that if you wanted to, you could take it. You could take that value every single day. If you had zero interest, you could take it, you could sell it, and you could withdraw it as actual capital from the game. It's giving you real value, and even if the GLX price is down right now, it doesn't matter. It's money printed out of thin air that is going into your pocket. It's being given to you as value. Now, some people are going to say, it's better to hold it, stake it. I'm not trying to get into that. I'm just trying to say that right now and for the next maybe 10 months or so until next October, I believe, you're going to continue to get this just for being involved in the Splinterlands game. And you don't even need to have a huge, stack or stake in the game right now. If you're just playing, you're going to receive staked SPS every day for playing, and that will translate to GLX being airdropped to you over the next 10 months or so, as long as the airdrop is going on. Now, Double Coconut, Warner Music. Well, Warner Music we won't really get into. I'm excited about the tower defense game because I think it will add a level of variety and diversity to the Splinterlands ecosystem. I think that there's a lot of cool things that can happen with it. I don't know where development currently is at, but I love the idea that it's not taking away from Splinterlands resources, which just got cut in half if you think about the layoffs that happened last month. So again, there's still a lot to be proven with both GLG and the tower defense game and Warner Music, but I'm excited about these in the future, and I think if we take a longer term view and see what the first, we'll call it 6 months of 2023 can bring, they may start bearing fruit in that time. Sure, they may have been, detractors from the team's attention and the community's attention and all that in 2022. But if you're in this for the long haul, and I don't even mean to be like a diamond hand, you got to do it for the long haul. Even it's just 6 months. Give it 6 months, and I think we'll see some fruits bared from the GLG game release. Hopefully, the tower defense game release, and maybe some new news on Warner Music. So that is number 4. And then number 5, Splinterfest. I think it's bullish just due to the fact that it happened. And I know there hasn't been much coverage, there hasn't been much video released from the game or from the event, and I don't know if that's going to happen. I think there might have been some technical difficulties. I still think from a marketing perspective, if they do get some of that video out, or even if they use like crowdsourced community videos, that's going to be helpful just to show that there was a real in-person event that, people flew from all across the world for. There was a major competition that was held. And again, it's the first time anything like this has ever happened. There's going to be hiccups. It's not going to look clean and pretty. But let me tell you, if you were there, it was incredible. And I'm not trying to say this to like exclude people, but hopefully give you desire and motivation to maybe make it out to one in the future, and one that might be more available or local to you. It was the idea that we, especially coming out of the craziness that was 2022 with the pandemic and all that, the idea of a lot of these digital relationships, virtual relationships that people had built over that time period, and just in gaming in general, right? So many of the relationships end up being virtual. To go there, to have it feel so real, to to have these imaginary friends on the internet become real friends, and to shake their hands, hug them, talk to them face to face in real life, that was an incredible experience. And I don't think that I can overstate it, nor do I want to sound dramatic while talking about it, but it was awesome, and I do hope that it sets a precedent for more of these types of events in the future. For me, that I unofficially want to start setting up more meetups for the Splinterlands community, more local meetups, just because I think there's the community is what makes this game, and I think being able to be around others who are obsessed like you, that have the same or similar mindsets, same perspectives, same views on the world. And I'm not talking about, obviously when I say that, the the risk of being in an echo chamber obviously comes up, but it's also just being friends, right? Like, I mean, you vibe with people that have a lot of those same interests as you, and I think being able to do that in a physical um, in a physical location, or face to face, was incredibly valuable, and that set a precedent where it's just like, well, any kind of future in-person events I would love to go to as somebody who attended. And I think anybody who wasn't able to make it this time around will probably want to head there at some point in the future, just based on the stories that people have told. So whatever the case is, I think that Splinterfest was a major win. And again, I think it's more so the precedent that it sets. It's the memories and the experience that it created for the 300 plus people that attended. And ultimately, it's just a starting point for where live events in Splinterlands can go in the future. So, those are my 5 biggest wins for Splinterlands in 2022. I would actually love to hear if there's something that you guys think should be on this list, maybe something that I completely missed, and maybe there's something on this list that you think is not a big win. But let me know. We can discuss and converse in the comments below. I will catch you all in the next video and see you around the game. Take care.